Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll show you a medieval fantasy film, The Green Knight. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. It is a tradition for the regal and aging king to hold a Christmas celebration for his knights. Each knight of the Round Table earns his honorable title by great deeds that do the king and nation proud. In other words, all of them legend in the flesh, with heroic stories to tell. Sir Gawain is the king's nephew, a dissolute youth without valor, but dreams of being a knight. Even though he has inherited the royal blood, he is nothing close to the qualification. Gawain's mother feels anxious about her callow son, and earnestly hopes for his success. So mother plans to offer Gawain some assistance during the festive celebration. Gawain is called to attend the Christmas feast with the storied Rouble Table Knights, and sits next to the king at the feast. The king invites Gawain to tell a tale of himself, but he has no tale that he deems worthy of telling a table of battle-tested warriors. His daily routine revolves around eating, drinking, and dating with his lover in the slums. King takes this chance to lecture Gawain, showing him the importance of leading a meaningful and worthy life. Feeling ashamed of his inadequacy, Gawain is determined to make a change. Little does he know that at the same time, Mother journeys to a tall tower to write Gawain's tale. She first covers her eyes with a piece of white cloth, and begins the ritual with her fellow witches. Holding a pen, she jolts down a series of bizarre letters, and then she chants, looking up at the sky. As a result, the sky outside is suddenly overcast and thunders. At this time, the piece of paper filled with mysterious symbols automatically burns itself. Her mystical ways conjure a monster, a green-clad, seemingly tree-like giant. In a startling manner, the door of King's dining hall bursts open. A gigantic emerald figure in armor rides into the court on horseback and proclaims himself as the Green Knight. All knights immediately arise and draw their swords, getting ready for the fight. However, the Green Knight approaches the king, with no intention to harm him, but to deliver a letter. It is a challenge he poses to the heroes in presence. If one of them were to land a blow on him, he would reward them with his axe. However, any blow landed will be returned with the same severity 1 year later, and must be accepted willingly. Hearing the content of the letter, the Knights of the Round Table are understandably cautious. This seems way too risky, as no one could boast about what happens 1 year later. In fact, the letter presented to the king is exactly what Mother prepares during her special witchcraft. Obviously, Mother has plotted to create an opportunity for her beloved son to rise and shine. Young people are always rash to decision, and Gawain is no exception. When everyone else remains uncertain, he breaks the cowardly silence and takes up the challenge. Receiving the sword from King, he decapitates the Green Knight in a single blow. To their horror, despite that blow job, the monster is not killed. The beheaded Green Knight rises and lifts his severed head. He tells Gawain to come to find him at the Green Chapel 1 year later, and bring along the big axe that he leaves behind. At that time, the Green Knight will deliver a strike of equal power, and then he leaves the palace, in anticipation of their meeting next Christmas. The tale of Gawain's bloody blow to the Green Knight is bruited about far and wide in the kingdom. Gawain, a noble nobody, becomes an instant celebrity whom people look up to. Time flies, and the next Christmas is close at hand. King summons Gawain, and reminds him to look for the Green Knight at the Green Chapel according to the game. He adds that if Gawain does not show up for the challenge, he will be reduced to a coward. Gawain knows clearly that this trip is too dangerous, but he decides to go. King and Queen pray for his safe return before his departure. To help Gawain accomplish the task, Mother has made him a green belt with witchcraft. Mother teaches her son not to let go of any opportunity, so Gawain sets off for the Green Chapel. It is a journey to tackle many difficulties and problems, developing characters and traits worthy of being a real knight. He heads north, riding through the wilderness, and satiates his hunger with the food he packs. Comes night, he makes bonfire and rests in the open air. After a day's ride, Gawain reaches a flourishing forest, where corpses are lying around. The brutal and bloody scene seems to suggest that war just takes place. Gawain continues to go forward, and bumps into an enthusiastic boy nicknamed Enthusiastic. Enthusiastic talks without stop, and keeps telling him the horror and sad stories of this place. Learning that Gawain is going to the Green Chapel, Enthusiastic is eager to help him with his directions. Gawain says thank you and prepares to leave, but Enthusiastic becomes agitated and questions him if his tips are not worthy at all. As a token of appreciation, Gawain then tips him with a silver coin. Following the instructions of Enthusiastic, Gawain passes by a little stream and stops for a break. When he resumes his journey, he runs into a lady who charges at him with a knife. Gawain tries to escape the female killer, but another archer shows up behind him. As such, Gawain is captured, having no way out. At this moment in time, Enthusiastic walks to them, laughing at Gawain's naiveness. It turns out that they are all robbers, who plunder the tourists in the disguise of helping them. Soon after, Enthusiastic grabs all of Gawain's belongings, including the big axe given by the Green Knight. Gawain is abandoned in the woods, with his hands and foot tied up. Over time, Gawain gives up his struggles to break free, and begins to hallucinate. In a vision, he sees himself turning into a skeleton, and comes back to his senses. He knows he must not give up now. Enthusiastic has left behind a blade, which gives Gawain a glimpse of hope for freedom. Wriggling as hard as he could, he crawls over and cuts the rope with the blade. Once free, Gawain runs north with all his might and strength. Luckily, he manages to find a wooden cottage in the forest that night. Without further considerations, Gawain steps into the dusty and apparently abandoned cottage. Exhausted, Gawain does not mind its cleanliness, and rests on a bed on the second floor. At midnight, Gawain is awakened by a young lady. She questions Gawain why he is lying on her bed. Feeling guilty, Gawain quickly gets up to apologize. As he is exiting the cottage, the lady stops him and demands an explanation of his visit. Now the skeptical Gawain does not trust any stranger, so he lies that he is just an ordinary passerby, who loses his way in the woods. Since this house is empty, he drops by for a stay-over. In response, the lady offers him a stay, with the condition that he must help her with something. Upon finishing her words, the lady floats up to Gawain, a sign to indicate that she is not a human. However, Gawain does not notice this unusual phenomenon, and he wonders what kind of favor he could do for her. Then the lady leads him to a pond, and tells him that her head is cut off and thrown into the pond. She wants Gawain to pick up her head from the bottom of the pond. Gawain cannot believe what he is hearing, so the lady elaborates on her misery. In the past, a man like Gawain came to spend the night, but he harbored a sinister motive for the lady. As a result, he was kicked out of the house. Unexpectedly, he returned in the middle of the night, cut off the lady's head while she was asleep, and dumped it into the pond. Hearing the full story, Gawain asks the lady if she is a ghost. The lady says it is not important, and she just wants her head back, and would not let Gawain's effort go in vain. Convinced by her words, Gawain walks into the pond, and finds a skeleton head at its bottom. However, by the time Gawain comes up from the water with the head, the girl is gone. What appears before him is a little fox, which leaves after seeing Gawain gets on shore. Mystified, Gawain returns to the cottage, and discovers a corpse without head lying on the bed. It is certain that the lady exists in the spirit, not in the flesh. Gawain carefully places the skull on the skeleton. When that is done, a ray of warm sunlight shines into the room. Mysteriously, a big axe is also added to the room, one that looks similar to what is taken away by Enthusiastic. Gawain begins his new day with the big axe on his shoulder. As he walked, the weather suddenly changes, and it begins to rain. Gawain takes refuge in a cave and meets the little fox again. He invites the fox to shelter from the rain, and so they spend the night together in the cave. At dawn the next day, Gawain sets out on his journey. Without food, he eats mushrooms from the surrounding rock walls, leading to food poisoning and occasional hallucinations. After a few days of suffering from pain, Gawain chances upon a group of giants marching through a valley. Gawain shouts out to them, hoping that they will offer him a convenient ride on the journey. To his surprise, the fox suddenly stands up and drives the giant away with a roar. Gawain has no choice but to continue walking until he reaches a castle at night. Exhausted, he approaches the castle to seek some help. The castle is inhabited by a lord, the lord's lady, and a blindfolded old woman. Strangely enough, the lord recognizes Gawain, and invites him to stay in the castle until Christmas, for the Green Chapel is just nearby. It turns out that Gawain's search for the Green Church had been widely known. And then the lord introduces his wife to Gawain, who also extends him an invitation. So Gawain accepts the offer to be their guest at the castle. The lord goes out hunting in the daytime, and only returns to the castle at night. During the lord's absence, his wife is exceptionally warm to Gawain, not only giving him a book as a Christmas present, but also offering to paint his portrait. That night the lord comes back from hunting, and informs Gawain that he will not be in the castle for the next 2 days. He proposes they exchange what he obtains while hunting with whatever Gawain finds at the castle. Gawain wonders why he makes such a request, because everything in the castle should belong to him. The lord replies to him that the castle is full of strange things. The next day, the lord sets off for hunting, riding on his horse. Gawain wakes up to find the lord's lady seated beside his bed, and then she moves close to Gawain and seduces him. At first, Gawain cannot resist the temptation, so he hugs her, but he manages to cool down his hormones before his 2-minute hormone game could ever take place, and thus never give her the chance to humiliate him for that. The Lord's Lady sighs at Gawain, and comments that he is not a true knight. After the Lord's Lady leaves his room, Gawain realizes that the blindfolded old woman has been standing beside them all this while. Speechless, Gawain puts on his clothes to flee the castle, and bumps into the Lord on his way. When asked where he is heading, Gawain answers the Lord that he is on his way to the appointment. The Lord then asks Gawain if he has anything to return him. Stunned, Gawain turns back to tell him firmly he does not take any of the Lord's belongings. Still, the Lord gifts Gawain with the best of his prey, which is a little fox Gawain befriends with. In this way, Gawain and the fox embark on their journey to the Green Chapel. After a long day of walk, Gawain reaches a stream where a boat is waiting. When the Green Chapel is finally within his reach, the fox impedes his way, warning him in a human voice about the impending dangers. According to the fox, if Gawain chooses to continue, he will be doomed. The fox advises Gawain to abandon the quest, and bear with the humiliation for his life's sake. Gawain refuses to heed its advice. Instead, he wields the axe at the fox to clear it from his path. With the determination to keep his promise and complete the challenge, Gawain takes the boat. Shortly after he departs from the fox, the hero-to-be reaches the Green Chapel. The Green Knight sits still in the chapel, where green plants are filling each inch of the place. Gawain steps forward to lay down his axe, and kneels down before the Green Knight. However, the Green Knight remains in his deep sleep until Christmas. Awakened, he rises from his seat, picks up his axe, and prepares to give Gawain a heavy blow. Gawain ducks for a moment in fear, but he soon recovers and is ready to take the axe. But whenever the axe falls, Gawain would instinctively duck. Finally, afraid of death, he decides to break the promise, and runs out of the Green Chapel. Before he runs afar, he sees the horse which was stolen by Enthusiastic. Elated, he hops onto the horse and returns home. Mother treats his wound and cleans the dirt off his body. Gawain hides all the unglamorous details from others, so the nation continues to regard him as a hero. Soon after, King dies of an illness and Gawain is called to succeed his throne. Gawain's lover delivers their son, but Gawain only takes the son. Forsaking his lover, Gawain gets married with a princess from another kingdom. Up to date, Gawain has been wearing the green belt Mother made for him. Over time, Gawain feels that the belt protects him like a talisman. Years later, Gawain goes to the battlefield together with his son, waging wars against various kingdoms. Gawain is not a real warrior, so he fails the battle and loses his son. Back to his homeland, Gawain is rejected by his own people. It is not long before the enemy attacks the city and tears down Gawain's castle. In the palace, Gawain slowly takes off the green belt, and his head suddenly drops from his neck. Then the scene switches back to the Green Chapel, and Gawain still kneels down before the Green Knight. What he experiences from the escape to death is merely a hallucination. They are just what if that goes through his mind. Just as the Green Knight's axe is about to fall, Gawain is reminded of something, and he calls it off. And then he removes the green belt from his waist, signaling the Green Knight that he is ready. Hearing the faith and courage through Gawain's words, the Green Knight squats down. With the tone of Mother, the Green Knight says to Gawain that he is a brave knight who does a great job. As such, Gawain manages to pass the test given by Mother and transforms into a real knight. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Peace out.